am I going to be able to do this? Like, am I going to be able to draw the line between reality and fiction? Am I going to be able to cope when Sarah gets called unfuckable because that's kind of how I feel about myself? Or am I going to be able to cope that, like, my first real intimate moments are fake on screen and not because someone actually likes me and wants to do that stuff with me?
Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land in which we record this podcast, the Wurundjeri People of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respect to our elders past and present. Hi butterflies, and welcome back to Boldly Move. My name is Chloé Hayden, and I'm so excited to have you listening to this podcast with me on this fine morning, or day, or afternoon, or night. I don't know what time you're listening to this in. Any time is a good time to be listening. Today, I am joined by my good friend and all-around good human, Hannah Diviney. Hannah is a writer, actress, and disability rights activist. You might know Hannah from her petition to urge Disney to create a disabled Disney princess, which got support from the likes of Jameela Jamil and Blake Lively, or when she gained international attention campaigning for both Beyonce and Lizzo to remove ableist slurs from their songs, which, by the way, she was successful in doing, or when she was announced as the Voice of Now at the Women of the Year Awards, or from her groundbreaking role in Latecomers. Wherever you've seen her, wherever you're about to see her, Hannah is an absolute trailblazer, and I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today. Hannah, hello.
I'm so excited to be here. Are you kidding?
Oh my God, stop it.
This is going to be the best.
Okay, so the first question that I want to ask you, and I ask this question to everyone, what are you hyperfixating on at the moment? It could be a person, a thing, a hobby, a show. What's your thing? Go, spill.
I mean, Taylor Swift will always and forever be at the top of that list. And I am very much enjoying getting the updates from her tour via like,
TikTok and Twitter and all that sort of
TikTok
stuff. Oh my
live
God.
streams
You know
and
what?
stuff.
I'm not even like a mad Taylor stan. Like, I appreciate her, but I've never been like a crazy Taylor stan. And it's literally just because my brain is already filled with too many other hyperfixations. I cannot mentally deal with another one. But each time I see a new TikTok, a new outfit video, a video of her tour, I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing out.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel right now.
You are an absolute change maker.
Thank you.
Of course. I first met you at the Marie Claire Women of the Year Awards, and you have, first of all, you were iconic beforehand, but since then have gone from absolute strength to strength. You are such an incredible human, such an incredible woman. Can you take me back to the start? You are such a representation at the moment. You are such a beautiful showcasing of representation. Can you tell me a bit about what little Hannah was like, what her life was like growing up?
So little Hannah was very similar to little Chloé in that she also felt very much like she must be on the wrong planet, or that like maybe if she wished and hoped and kind of thought about it hard enough that like Peter Pan would come and take her away to Neverland and the world would make sense. But yeah, for me, I just really, really loved stories. I was a super curious kid, always asking questions, always trying to soak the world up like a sponge and sort of trying to understand my place in it, always looking for people who looked like me and being really confused when I couldn't find them. And then sort of just trying to figure out what this thing that made me different meant, and how I was going to navigate that. I think as well, because cerebral palsy is something that you have from the moment you're born, for your whole life, like something I really had to come to terms with was the idea of permanence as a kid, because obviously like if someone says, well, you're going to have this forever, like when you're a kid, forever can feel like 2 weeks, and then you kind of like, oh, wait, you mean until I'm old and have grey hair like my grandparents?
Yeah, right.
Like, that was really strange to try and like work out that there was never going to be like any kind of relief from that, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was little me. I was horse obsessed.
Slay. Same.
Yeah. I loved Disney movies more than anything. I used to sing and put on shows for my family, and like imagine that one day I'd be the person on stage or on the television and stuff like that. And then when I got older, kind of very quickly realized that wasn't a totally viable option, because obviously, like, we know that disabled stories in particular have a habit of being told by actors and creatives who aren't disabled.
Non-disabled people, yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of very quickly understood that, like, in order to be an actor, you basically need to be able to change everything about yourself from role to role. And I was like, well, I have this one fundamental thing about myself that I can't change. So what am I going to do? Like, all of my roles are going to be a disabled person, and like, isn't that reductive or like boring for an audience? So I was even thinking like in those terms. But yeah, I've wanted to be a writer since I was 4 years old. So basically, just like telling stories and creating things has been like the number one driver of everything I do. So getting to actually like live that out now is very, very surreal for me.
It's incredible. And first of all, why are we literally the same person? Our childhoods sound literally identical. I wish we went to school together.
Me too. We would have had so much fun.
Literally, I would have been like, oh my God, someone gets me. There is someone else that is on the same rocket ship that I was on. If we were together, first of all, we would have been menaces if we were in school together. I feel like maybe we went in school together for a reason, but oh my God.
Definitely.
Every time I listen to your story, I'm like, oh my God, we are the same person. We have the same story. From like the superficial things like the love for Disney, the love for horses, but just our feelings and how society treated us, and the kind of overall misunderstanding of who we are because of what society told us that we should be and what we can never be. Okay, let's talk about shows. Let's talk about representation. Let's talk about inclusivity. You said growing up or as a teenager, you realized that your dreams of becoming an actor, performing, seeing yourself on screen, you realized it wasn't a possibility.
Yeah.
It became a possibility.
You did.
Are in the show Latecomers.
I am.
Are an absolute innovator in it. You are an absolute game changer in it. You, tell me if I'm getting this right. You are one of the first physically disabled people to lead a series.
I'd hesitate to say the first, because I'm sure like there's some Scandinavian country that's just like really great at like
some,
inclusivity,
like, niche
and
Bollywood movie.
Yeah, something that's like really inclusive and clever. But yeah, definitely one of the first. And then like further to that, as far as I can tell, like the first woman with a disability, at least here in Australia, to do a sex scene on screen.
Yes, of course.
Which is not a piece of history I thought I would ever own.
Dude, 5-year-old Hannah is like, you wait and see, girl.
Yeah. She's like, Mum, what's a sex scene?
First of all, walk me through the process. What was it like for people that aren't in the industry, that aren't actors, that aren't in the entertainment industry? How did the job come about?
Okay, so the job came about because of my advocacy work. Basically, I end up getting all sorts of emails from all sorts of cool people these days because I'm very visible on social media, on like Instagram and Twitter. And I had I had an email from a producer who was working with SBS on Latecomers, and he was basically saying, hey, we have this show Latecomers. It's written by disabled people. It's for disabled people. The two main characters have cerebral palsy. Like it's going to be great, basically. And then it was like, basically we're at the stage in the show's development where we're looking for people to come in and read the script, basically so that the writers can hear the dialogue they've spent months staring at on their laptop in like actual people's voices and figure out like what's not working and what is working. And we were hoping that like you'd come in and read for the lead role of Sarah because we think you'd be great, and that would be really cool. Really cool. And I was there going, well, sure. I mean, I'll be a part of a TV show for a day. That's that's fine. Like, I'd love to do that. Because at that point, like, I didn't have any idea or, like, intention that I was going to be in the show. I was just like, this is going to be great. And then whoever ends up playing this character, like, I'll get to say, oh, I played that character for a day, and hopefully, like, whoever the actress is that kills it will, like, want to be friends with me at some point. And then we got to the end of the read, and I had really enjoyed it. And I looked up, and the director and the casting director were, like, standing next to me, and they're like, so, you're auditioning for the show? And they phrased it as a statement, not a question. And I went, I am? And they went, yeah, because you can act. And I went, I can? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, are you sure? I haven't had any training. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was just making it up as I went along. And they're like, no, we know. We loved it. So we'll be expecting you to submit, like, an audition tape. And I was like, cool. Okay, great. Quick question, though. How do you submit
an audition tape?
Like, how do you submit an audition tape? What is that? Like,
oh my
what
God.
is that? Like, I don't, like, I've seen them before on YouTube, but, like, how does this work?
So you weren't an actor prior to Latecomers?
No, so I had done drama as a kid.
Yeah.
Pretty much, like, all the way through high school, and, like, had done, like, those NIDA school holiday camps, and, like, could basically be found on a stage anywhere there was one. But yeah, no, I'd never done any acting before, and I'd certainly never done any of the training that I knew or thought I knew you had to do to be an actor.
Yeah, but see, I find that really interesting because I also obviously as an actor as well, same to you, I've never taken official acting lessons. I've never done official training. I never went to school or university for it, but I've also found, and I don't know if you're similar, but I found that my life was my training as an actor, and as someone that is neurodivergent and has had to put a mask on for my entire life,
yeah,
my acting came in the form of playing pretend in order to exist in the world that we currently live in. Did you find similar?
Yeah, I definitely did, and I think for the role of Latecomers, like for the role in Latecomers, like of playing Sarah, there was so much similarity between her and I, and the way we thought about the world and the experiences we hadn't had and the experiences we had, that it was actually almost quite eerie, really, and like actually gave me pause as I started getting through the auditions to be like, wait, am I going to be able to do this? Like, am I going to be able to draw the line between reality and fiction? Like, am I going to be able to cope when Sarah gets called unfuckable, because that's kind of how I feel about myself?
Right, of course.
Like, am I going to be able to cope that, like, my first real intimate moments are fake on screen and not because someone actually, like, likes me and wants to do that stuff with me? Like, how is that going to work? And in the end, I actually pulled out. Like, I rang the casting director, and the director was like, guys, I don't think I can do this. I think it's too much. Like, my anxiety and my depression, and, like, this is just going to wreck my sense of self completely, I think. And the director, who didn't know me very well at that point, managed to say, like, the one thing that got me to stop, which was like, oh, damn, we would have picked you.
And you were like, wait, no, I take it back, give me the job.
And I was, I was like, wait a second.
Wait, hold up, I take it all back.
I was like, God damn it. Now if I'm sitting here watching this show in like 6 months or a year's time, all I'm going to be able to think is,
you're going to see some other girl doing it, and it's like, that could have been me.
Heck yes. And then I'm like, far out. You've been waiting for this representation for your whole life.
Yes,
and now you're
exactly.
getting the chance to do it. So, like, what are you doing?
Let's talk about Lizzo.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So, for those who are uninformed, Lizzo released a song and there was a slur in it, and you created a tweet. I'm going to read out the tweet. So the tweet was, "Hey Lizzo, my disability, cerebral palsy, is literally classified as spastic diplegia, where spasticity refers to unending painful tightness in my legs. Your new song made me pretty angry and sad. Spaz doesn't mean freaked out or crazy. It's an ableist slur. It's 2022, do better." Tell me what happened after that tweet got released.
So after that tweet got released, like, for context, it took me less than 5 minutes to write it. I kind of went straight back to what I was doing. I think it was like the long weekend here in Sydney, so I had family here. And then my phone started buzzing incessantly. Like every 5 seconds it would be like zzz, 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 zzz. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is very unusual. And I kind of looked at my phone and saw that it was absolutely flooded with Twitter notifications. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's blown up.
Uh-oh. Like, now I can't literally touch, I can't touch my phone because it's literally like too
Were
hot.
you not expecting it to gain traction? Did you just kind of, because I do that all the time and it's always the tweets that blow up that I'm just like writing thinking it's my own personal little diary entry that no one reads, and then a lot of people see it and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, and then you're like, ooh, didn't imagine that would be the thing that would like...
better if I had have known.
But that tweet blew up, and I started getting some pretty significant negative pushback.
Right.
From that tweet. And that's when I was like, oh, this is going like viral. Like this is like scary internet levels now.
Uh-huh.
Because of like, obviously, you know, we live in something of an echo chamber, I guess, in terms of like the fact that like most of the time the things we say are going to be reinforced by the people around us.
Yep.
And it's like when you start getting disagreement, whether it's polite or otherwise, that's a sign that like you're really making change, because you've made it outside the circle of people who are always going to be telling you in some way or another that you're doing a good job.
Of course.
And that was quite scary, because it suddenly became very real that like, someone connected to Lizzo could see this, and like, what do I do if that happens? Because I have to say, like, if there was any sort of reaction that I might have been expecting from her camp at all, it wasn't the one I got. Mm-hmm. I was expecting that if Lizzo saw the situation at all, she would probably handle it similarly to Sia.
But she didn't.
And
we've had similar experiences. We've both targeted singers who have done low-key shitty things, whether it was on purpose or not on purpose. My reaction was incredibly different to yours. I got blocked by her.
You did get blocked by her, and then made an excellent joke on Netflix about it.
Thank you very much. The fact that they allowed me to keep it in is absolutely astonishing.
I love them so much for that. I was like, honestly, they let us say it.
Honestly, big slay. But your response with Lizzo was incredibly different. How did Lizzo react to your tweet?
My response with Lizzo was incredibly positive, and the reason that I wasn't expecting it is because we've all seen so many times, like, celebrities are, quote unquote, like, made to apologize for things, and they get defensive, and they double down.
Classic apology videos with the fake tears, the Instagram
and the whole
stories.
Yeah, the whole thing. Whereas Lizzo didn't do a story, didn't do a video. She made a post that is still on her grid now, and she basically said, look, as a marginalized woman myself, I have been called all sorts of names and had all sorts of words weaponized and used against me. And I would never want to do that. That definitely wasn't my intention with this song. But like, now that I see that it causes hurt to a certain kind of section of the world, I'm just going to re-record the song without the slur in it. Like, it's that simple. It's that easy. Thank you for teaching me. Like, I really appreciate it. And I think that was just a masterclass in how to be an ally
Of course. And I love Lizzo. I think she is
Me too.
absolute queen. I adore her. And the fact that that was her response made me love her even more. Because the thing is, we're going to stuff up. People are going to get things wrong. People are going to say the wrong things. People are going to do things that are a bit silly. It's your reaction and how you deal with those things after you've been called out for doing or saying the wrong thing. And the fact that her response was so elegant and so beautiful, and she did create changes based on what her audience was telling her. I think it's so important that, we're not perfect people. No one is a perfect person. Like, no one is Jesus. Like, no one can be the perfect human being.
Nope.
It's the way that you unlearn and re-educate yourself that makes you a good person. And the fact that she did that and Beyonce as well, same sort of thing happened, showcases the sort of person that they actually are, and showcases the fact that it's a willingness and a drive to create change that is more important than anything.
And it's probably no accident that, like, their willingness to change comes from the fact that both of them know what it is to be marginalized and exist in communities that are constantly made to feel as though they don't belong, or they don't have value, or they shouldn't be here, or all of that stuff. Like, I think if you weren't coming from that sort of place, it would be very easy to react a different way to someone calling you out like that.
You have been such a game changer in creating representation on screen, in showcasing that you have a seat at the table and that you're in the room when it comes to literally the biggest pop stars in the world right now. You've created a petition to urge Disney to create a disabled Disney princess, which we have spoken about. Disney, hit us up.
Yes, please.
What do you think needs to happen to create and to sustain a more accessible, accommodating future where we don't have to be calling out celebrities and where it isn't history making for people like us to be on screen?
Well, I think, first of all, that's a huge question. And I think the importance is that people like you and I keep being allowed to move forward and to grow and to take up as much space as we can possibly lay claim to. But I also think it's making sure that, like, the stuff that's happening to us and the opportunities that are coming our way don't exist in a vacuum, and that there's actual, like, systemic change that means that the doors that we've pushed open stay open so that anyone can kind of let themselves into this space and, like, give themselves a seat at the table.
Hannah, you've got a book coming out soon.
I do.
Please tell me about it.
So, you are actually the first person who has asked me about this necessarily, and also,
oh my God, I'm honored,
the first person who will probably get an actual answer, because the book that I have coming out, hopefully in September, if I can get my act together and make sure I get all of these edits done, because that's where I am right now.
Part of writing, isn't it?
I dislike it so much. It's basically a personal essay collection about my experiences as a disabled person, and just as a young person who's also found themselves coming of age in a world where so many things are changing and so many things are under attack and so many people are kind of figuring out how to be, and we're kind of getting this opportunity to sort of reshape the world in ways that we haven't before. And it's also just filled with, like, pop culture references and just, like, the complete chaotic thoughts of a 20-something who is just kind of chronicling her life. There will be people who probably try and call it a memoir, but I dislike that categorization, because I think that makes it sound like I have stuff all figured out, and I don't. I am figuring it out as I write stuff. There will be things that people read that I literally didn't know about my own brain until I was writing stuff down, and then I was like, oh, quick, let me call my psychologist real fast.
Me, oh my God, the amount of like emergency psych sessions I had to have while writing my book, I was like, I need to talk to you. I've just discovered an immense puzzle piece of my brain right now.
Yeah. You're like, oh, that was the thing.
Yes.
And then I think for me, like I have always like wanted to or had fantasies about like being a musician and doing all of that kind of stuff. Probably because Taylor Swift is such a formative influence in like my understanding of womanhood and like the way that I write about my feelings. But books like this are sort of the closest way I'll get to it, because my kind of idea is that once I release this one, I will pivot into fiction, and then hopefully, as more life stuff happens to me, release more essay collections, kind of similar to how an artist
would release albums.
Yeah, might release an album.
Wow, that's
that
so
like
cool.
Chronicles the last couple of years of their life.
That's such a cool idea. I am so immensely excited to read it. Can I be the person when you do your book tour that asks you the questions like you did for me?
You can. That's totally what I want to do, Chloe.
Perfect. Let's do it. Let's collaborate on that. Let's collaborate on becoming Disney princesses together.
Let's do it.
Before we wrap up, there are 3 questions that I want to ask you. These are called the Boldly Me 3, and it is 3 quick questions that I ask every single one of my guests. Are you ready?
Okay. Hit me.
Okay. Number 1 is, what is one song that never fails to make you feel happy?
Probably You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift.
Classic answer. Screaming it in your bedroom at 2 o'clock in the morning. What could be better?
Yeah.
Number 2, what is one piece of advice that you would give your 13-year-old self?
All of the fears that you have about your future are just that. Fears. They're not actually what's going to happen to you, and if you hang around and if you hold on and believe that you are actually meant to be here, you will find that the life you've dreamed about ends up being a lot closer than you thought.
That's so beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. Number 3. Number 3. This is, okay, I'm really excited to hear this response.
Okay.
If you could be any Disney character, who would you be?
Wow.
Until, of course, you get your own Disney princess.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's an important caveat, you guys. Who would I be? I mean, I feel like Tigger has a pretty good time.
Oh, I love that answer.
Yeah, I feel like Tigger has a pretty good time. He just seems like he's happy in his own skin and just doing his own thing.
I love it. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute honor and an absolute privilege to speak with you again, and I am so excited to work on more projects with you, to collaborate with you. Let's do a movie together one day. Let's act together one day. Let's make it happen. Hello, Disney. Hello, production companies that are listening to this. Hit us up.
Yeah.
Hit a girl up. Thank you so much for joining me. What an incredible human Hannah is. Go and watch Latecomers. It is on SBS. Go and watch it. She is incredible in it. Chef's kiss. She is such an incredible actress, such an incredible person, such an incredible advocate, such a brilliant human being. Thank you so much for listening to Boldly Me today. If you guys liked what you heard, give it a like and maybe share it with a friend. Most importantly, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and do whatever makes you feel happy. Bye.